Welcome to Smarking Down. I am your host, Brother Bob, and with me for this episode is IPW owner and independent wrestler Josh Raymond. How's it going, Josh?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, we thought it would be a good idea with all the controversy coming out of Full Gear to have you on and get a actual in-ring worker's point of view, a point of view of somebody who's worked with on TV and in the ring, because there's a lot of hot takes out there by so-called professionals, so-called insiders that I don't necessarily agree with, and I think getting a wrestler's point of view is important.
Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff they said either. Wrestling's pre-planned. Everyone talks about everything ahead of time. So anything that those guys took in the match, they knew they were going to take. They're going to be fine at the end of the day because they knew they're going to take it. So all the things that you saw, everything they wanted to do, everything that they absorbed or gave to each other, they knew they were going to do. They're going to be fine. At the end of the day, we don't take anything we don't feel comfortable taking. So that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, we want to start out with the world title match, or we want to talk about the lights out match to start this out?
Let's do the world title.
All right, there we go.
So I took a couple notes. First and foremost, we got Cody going in at 4-1-1, and Jericho going in 3-0. Our referee is Aubrey Edwards, correct?
Yes.
All right. So Cody has an amateur wrestling background. A while ago, probably 2016, I worked out with Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, and Cody Rhodes in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where I'm from. And we just all worked out at this little gym I have access to. Just a little private gym. And it was kind of neat just to be able to hang out with those guys, which looking at them now, just how different and like they are in different levels. Mm-hmm. Cody where he's at and Seth where he's at and Bryan where he's at. It's just kind of neat to like look back and have like those three people in particular to hang out with them one day. Yeah. Regardless though, Cody and I discussed a lot of amateur wrestling. I've coached amateur wrestling for like 17 years and Cody has a background in amateur wrestling as well. So we talked a lot about that, which brought me to the beginning of the match. Cody starts the match off with some wrestling, some like single leg, amateur wrestling, basic moves. Continues with like a little chain wrestling type stuff. Does some very basic early shine wrestling, as we call it. Okay. Jericho powders a couple times at the beginning. Cody hits a tope. This is basic shine stuff in professional wrestling. And if you're going to do a prolonged match, you do a lot of chain wrestling in the beginning. Yeah. That's kind of the shine type stuff that baby faces get over with. Let's see, what else? Jericho cuts him off eventually with a couple things. The big thing that I think everyone wants to get to is the dive.
Yeah.
So the dive from the inside of the ring onto the ramp. So Cody clotheslines Jericho over. Jericho takes it over onto the ramp. And when you take a clothesline over the top, usually you're going to the apron. You can land on your feet onto the ground or the apron or whatever and go to the ground. Cody clotheslines Jericho over. And he tries to land, but he just eats shit. Jericho eats shit a little bit on the out on the ramp there. Afterwards, Cody hits the ropes, comes in, goes for the big suicide dive. Jericho moves and lands face first right into the ramp there. And immediately, the angle that he came down at, I knew like it was a bad angle. Depending on how you project yourself in the jump, the angle that you land on, you got to aim kind of particularly with that. If he was going to the floor, he'd probably have just did like a tope suicida, where he'd do the not suicida, but the tope con hilo, where he'd do the flip over. Yeah. He would have probably just flipped and landed on his back on the ground if it wasn't the ramp. But he landed on the ramp head first and just totally hard weighed himself.
Yeah, it looked like to me, he's done that suicide dive a lot, but that the ramp all the way to the ring is not something we see a whole lot of anymore. I mean, Ring of Honor uses it sometimes, but something WWE didn't use. I don't think AEW's used it up until this show. I think they've had just a standard ramp. So I think probably his experience in that situation is probably less, and he was probably just working like he would a normal match.
Right. And, I mean, most promotions you don't use the ramp because most people don't have a ramp. Yeah. It reminds me of the old WCW like pay-per-views. Yes, I love that. I think the ramp looks really cool. It reminds me of New Japan and other places that use that sort of thing. But most American independent promotions definitely don't have a ramp. But yeah, that would be what we call the cutoff. Mm-hmm. And after that, Jericho took over and started his heat. At that point, put a little bit of basic heat on him. Cody does a moonsault for a hope spot. Missed the moonsault, actually. A little more heat from Jericho. Jericho puts him in an abdominal stretch. It's another basic wrestling hold. He does the hip toss out. Jericho cuts him back off with a drop kick. From there, let's see. We got Mama Rose with the slap. So Mama Rose is in attendance, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
And it's nice that they got to, bring her involved. We've also seen Dean out there a little bit too. Dean Malenko, who him and Jericho have had, countless good matches with. So it's nice seeing those people in attendance. Mama Rose getting involved. It's kind of cool. Came back in the ring. Cody put the figure 4 on. Jericho rolls it over, gets the ropes. Let's see, what else? What else do you remember from the match particularly? Like, what are the highlights for you for the match? Of course, the dive.
Well, I mean, yeah, the dive and the finish are the big things I think everyone's talking about. I think the fact that this didn't, I mean, Jericho had the Walls of Jericho, Seth Lion Tamer on Cody a couple times in the match, and Cody managed to get to the ropes and break that. We had the big outside spot where Jake Hager and MJF clashed.
Right.
Which
right before that, Hager interfered,
yep.
And at first he hopped on the apron, little reversal. Jericho knocks him off. He goes down. He comes back up, punches Cody. He gets tossed out by Aubrey, and that's when he starts the little clash with MJF there. But I really liked how they had that little engagement there and using him. Like, if you have a big heater, a big diesel on the outside, why not use him? You know what I mean?
And I like the fact they didn't, because there was that heel turn at the end. I like the fact that they didn't have MJF immediately join up with the Inner Circle after that on Dynamite, because like if this was a plan going in, it wouldn't have made any sense for him and Jake to have thrown fists. Because
I hate that.
On the same side, so
that happens so often, and people just are expected to forget about, last week we were fighting each other, and this week we're best buddies. So it's like, we were in cahoots, but we were really punching each other. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Couple cool things that I liked from the match. Jericho goes for that elbow. What's it called? Judas elbow or
the Judas Effect.
Judas Effect. Thank you. Goes for the elbow. Cody counters it into the crossroads. Thought that was a really good false finish. Another good one was Cody going for the disaster kick and Jericho catching that into the code breaker. Like you said, walls of Jericho on him, gets the ropes, comes back. Actually, he yells it afterwards, gets the rope. Jericho yells at Aubrey for a second, and then he comes back and Cody small packages him. Really good false finish. Such a simple thing, like a roll up right there. People believe, that's gonna be the finish.
Yeah, well, and I mean, AEW's done a really good job of making that small package and those roll ups like be match enders.
Yeah,
something WWE almost never does now. AEW's been like, all right, you can have guys not hit their finisher and win the match.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. And
it's good to get over your finisher. It's good to establish your finisher so people know this is my finish. But it's also good to pin somebody out of nowhere sometimes. Yep. So I really like that, a small package or a roll-up of any sort, using that as a finish. I really like that a lot. It's great for false finishes, especially at the end of the match there. So he goes for that, rolls him up, comes back, puts the Walls of Jericho on, and what happens?
Wow, where are we at here?
Walls of Jericho right there for the finish. We see Cody in pain, knee to the back, kind of goes...
Towel tossed by MJF,
yeah.
And man, the fans did not like that. And I like that it's similar, like if you've been watching Cody for a while, there is throwback to that because Cody did that, was coming out to throw in the towel against Kenny Omega. And the Bucks had to stop him, and that started that whole little feud with him and Omega in New Japan and Ring of Honor. So you kind of have a throwback to that where it's like, this is one of those dirty tactics Cody was going to use and didn't get to, and now MJF just threw in the towel.
See, I didn't even know that, so I'm glad you have that knowledge. I don't.
Yeah, and it also, I feel like it made the heel turn more interesting because it wasn't MJF just interfering in the match.
Absolutely.
And there was a lot of question. Like, I know we were sitting here like, all right, is this a heel turn? Is this where is this going? And it almost looked like Cody was going to turn on MJF. Like MJF looked like he was legitimately upset, legitimately, sorry for having to do that, but concerned about Cody. And Cody looked just completely irate. And then you get that hand on the shoulder from Cody, like it's okay.
They're there.
Yep. And then bam, boot to the freaking crotch. And yeah, man, like Cody goes down, MJF full heel turn.
Yeah, it was great. Which everyone kind of felt was coming.
Yeah.
You got, arguably the best heel in wrestling right now. paired with somebody who's like super over as a babyface like Cody, it's gonna happen. I mean, yeah, I get the whole mentor idea, but if you're mentoring a heel and you're a babyface, fans kind of see through that.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I like the way they did it.
No, it's great.
They let it, kind of play out a little bit longer than what I think a lot of other companies would have done. And I kind of like the little ambiguity of like what is going to happen here. Is this where we're finally going to do the heel turn? And it kind of let the crowd build until he actually went and kicked him.
And the Cody tease was good too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And after the win, we get a Jericho being held on shoulders, popping the bubbly. I like that too. Yep. So.
Yeah, Jericho can get anything over. Like
the good stuff, man.
The bubbly, and I got a ticket, and his list in WWE and it.
Ollie Jimmy Jacobs.
Yeah, I'm like Jericho gets anything over.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
No, it was a good match all around. I thought like they told a good story. Like a lot of more modern matches, especially in places like AEW, the majority of the matches are a lot of false finishes. And I felt like this really built to the end of the match. It really seemed to not lag in any way. It seems to like have a really nice progression to where you're believing the false finishes when they finally get there, as opposed to big move, big move, big move. Which big move is going to be the finish? And I think this did a really good job of actually telling a good story. So
yeah, I agree. And then that was the technical main event, being that the following match is a lights out match. A lot of people online seem to not quite get that. There was a lot of the world title should always be the last, the main event, the last match in the card, which I agree with that statement. But a lights out match is after that card is over. That's the whole concept of like the term lights out match is like after the lights have gone out on the show.
In wrestling perspective, I would say the thing that sells the most, whether it is the championship match or a heated feud, that's the thing that people paid to see. And usually the thing they paid to see, the most popular thing, is usually what goes on last. So sometimes in the case of like a special attraction, like in the 80s, you would have Andre the Giant, who'd be on last with Hogan on, right before the intermission. So sometimes things like that would happen. When Hogan was a champion, he'd be on right before intermission. And then from there, he'd leave and go make another town. He'd do 2 shows in a day, and they'd have Andre on last against somebody because Andre was such a spectacle. So at least in that sense, they're seeing something really special that they paid money to go see. Whether they paid more money to see Hogan or Andre, it's arguable. But in wrestling perspective, sometimes like a big gimmick match like this one is definitely more of a attention getter than just a championship match.
All right, and so yeah, speaking of the lights out match now, we got Moxley, Kenny Omega. Doesn't count towards their stats for win-loss record because it's a lights out match, and anything goes.
That's right. Our referee is Paul Turner, and right away they started with some strikes. It was a nice little couple kicks and punches and yada, and finally Ambrose hits I just said Ambrose. Mox hits a black hole slam, goes to the outside. They do a little brawling. Kenny throws Mox over the guardrail, hits a big jumping drop kick over the guardrail. Really athletic, cool little spot. From there, they brawl over towards the, not necessarily bleachers, but the upper middle deck, I guess. Lays down Mox. Kenny goes up top, does a double foot stomp off of that. They do a lot of stuff in this match. A lot of stuff. And I think like all of that stuff, including all the sharp objects and dangerous things, is kind of what people were upset about.
Yeah, and I think just it was a 40-some minutes long. WWE tends to have their hardcore matches, their ladder matches and stuff be a bit on the shorter side, closer to that 30 minutes. So I think you had a longer match so they could get more in at a better pace. But because they were able to do so much, I think, and because it was stuff people haven't seen in a long time. Like people haven't seen like a legitimate like use of barbed wire like that in a long time.
And rarely have they ever seen glass, if ever, on mainstream television or mainstream wrestling.
Yep. I mean, and I think you have to go that direction with the glass just because of how overused thumbtacks had become. I mean, and they just used them on their show in Chicago for All Out. They had 2 separate thumbtack spots and matches for that. So,
really?
Yeah, they had Darby Allin had a thumbtack skateboard.
Okay.
And then in that match, at one point, they Janela poured thumbtacks into Jimmy Havoc's mouth and then like taped his mouth shut. And
Oh, that's right.
him. Yeah.
That's right.
So you had two separate thumbtack spots in the same match. So I mean, you don't want to overuse that. You don't want to completely overexpose the thumbtacks in a promotion this new. And so I think that means, and then the story-wise, it works well with, Kenny having gone through that table and commentary put over like, oh my God, that's what's left of that glass table. And I'm like, fantastic, guys. Thank you.
So yeah, a little bit of striking, a little bit of brawling. They go over, double foot stomp off the little bleacher area. Get back in the ring. Mox throws Kenny in. He gets the barbed wire bat out, plays it up to the camera. Kenny hits a couple snapdragons in there. Mox works the barbed wire bat on him a little bit beforehand. Kind of rakes it across his back, steps on it. I think they got a really good reaction from the crowd. Mm-hmm. And like with certain weapons like barbed wire, you can gimmick barbed wire. You can cut the barbs off a little bit, cut them shorter. You can do a couple different things with them. You can round them off. They look to be fine. They look to be like legit barbed wire. But barbed wire is one of the things that you can work pretty well if you know what you're doing. If you can do a light enough stomp or light enough strike, you can make it look good without actually really putting in full force.
Yeah.
So he does a couple things with that. He gets a couple snapdragons from Kenny. One of my favorite things is before the snapdragons, he hooks one and Mox breaks it. So he goes to the waist lock. And from there, Mox holds the arm and takes the barbed wire and rakes it on Kenny's arm. That. I thought that was really clever. Yeah. I thought it was good. From there, Kenny hits a pile driver on the garbage can. So he's getting a lot of false finishes. This wasn't like a structural match of like shine, cut off, heat, come back, hope spots, finish. Not hope spots. Shine, cut off, heat, hope spot, heat, come back, false finishes, finish. This generic wrestling thing that I think even the average person who watches wrestling on a semi-regular basis kind of knows the basic formula of a match. But as a performer, that's like the Pro Wrestling 101 psychology for new wrestlers. It's kind of that basic structure of a match. This wasn't that. This was completely you, me. And there were false finishes earlier on. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely different than a standard type of match, which you're going to do in a gimmick match like this anyway. So Kenny goes outside, gets the barbed wire broom. Love the broom. With the cleaner thing.
Yes, it's fantastic. I loved when he gets to the spot in the ring where he actually sweeps his back on his back. I loved it. I'm like, that is a different. I've never seen a barbed wire broom before. I've seen bats and 2x4s, and I've seen barbed wire kendo sticks. But the broom is unique to Kenny in this situation.
Fits the character,
and it fits the character. And it makes it more fun and more unique. It's paying homage, but not directly ripping off those that came before you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's nice.
So yeah, like I said, Kenny goes outside, goes for the barbed wire bat. Mox throws a little garbage can over, hits him real quick. Mox goes for a dive. That's where he takes the barbed wire broom for the first time on the dive. Doesn't connect with the dive. Doesn't even exit the ring. Takes that to the head. Mox goes in, or Kenny goes in, sweeps Mox's back. A couple moves on the broom. One of my favorites is the drop to hold on the broom a la Raven. And then from there, let's see, the moonsault. What else happens from here? One of the things that happened after that was the mouse traps. So Mox goes to the outside, brings in the mousetrap board. So you have a mousetrap board. Mouse traps are glued onto the board, which is different than regular mouse traps being set up in the ring. When they're connected to the board, they don't jump like a mousetrap would. When it jumps, it can come up and connect to you in different places. When they're connected to the board, it's not going to catch your skin as much. So that's one of those moves that, not moves, but one of those things that a lot of people don't realize.
It looks devastating.
It looks great. It looks tremendous. Looks dangerous and looks painful, but it's not that bad because you're probably not going to get pinched by it unless you have a lot of loose skin or anything like that. If you're a heavier guy, maybe, but guys who are fit will be all right. He takes the push out orange crush, little vertical suplex, pushes him out, and Kenny takes that onto the mouse traps actually, which I thought Mox was going to be the one who took that, but that's cool. From there, Mox goes out and gets his big gold chain, brings that in the ring. They do a couple things with that. 3 Snapdragons right there from Kenny. And then that's where Kenny then takes the chain, strangles him with it, throws him over the rope. His hand drop. I think they're putting that over on commentary. Like, oh, is he done? Of course, that wasn't it. From there was a table in there at some point.
Yeah, the table had been set up ringside, kind of leaned against the barricade.
Yeah.
And Kenny did
we forgot all
dive.
about it, and then eventually Kenny does a dive and puts him through it.
Yep.
I think kudos to the cameraman who didn't focus on the table at all.
Yes.
Because you see Kenny running, going for the dive, and then you see him connecting, and then you see him going through a table, which I thought was really good instead of like having him focused on Mox and the table while Kenny runs and dives on him. I think that was a much better way of focusing the camera on that.
Yeah, there's something to be said for foreshadowing, but giving it away is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's foreshadowing as opposed to just giving it away. Oh, here he comes with So I definitely think that was a way better way of using the camera work. Next, we have our bag of glass introduced. Kenny goes and grabs a big piece of glass and goes between Mox's fingers and web the fingers.
Yeah.
Nice visual. I think people really think, the inside of your fingers pretty weak, painful, sensitive area.
Yes.
So
everybody's had a paper cut.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows like what kind of pain a cut between your fingers is going to cause.
So I think that was kind of a good visual. From there, pours the glass out. And then let's see, what does he do from there? He drags his back across the glass, which was really good. Then he puts a sharpshooter on.
Yep.
And then he literally crawls through broken glass to get to the rope, which I think is such a good, like, poetic visual. Like it's such a cool thing.
Like the only way for you to survive this is to have to crawl through broken glass to it's so it shows like, oh, this person has so much guts that not only are they not going to tap out and going to get to the ropes, but they're going to crawl through glass to do it. It's just kind of taking that the guts of the performer up to like the next level in the story.
Absolutely. And then you were talking earlier about the thumbtacks in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny grabs a handful of glass, puts it in Mox's mouth, does a little thing there with it. And then
get a V trigger with that in there? Or?
I think so. And then after that, Mox hits a German on Kenny onto the broken glass.
Yep.
A couple V triggers. Kenny works Mox's forehead with the was it an ice pick or
they were not sure. I think it was an ice pick.
I thought it was an ice pick too.
They were saying it was either
a screwdriver,
an ice pick, or a screwdriver,
right?
But I'm pretty sure it was an ice pick.
So from there, he works over that on the entrance ramp as they're walking back towards the entranceway. The Bucks come out and trying to get Kenny to stop. Kenny tells him, "Yo, go grab this little barbed wire spider web net thing."
Yep.
Brings that over, and then there's a suplex into the barbed wire net,
which both guys take.
Right.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people expected maybe Moxley to be the one taking that.
Right.
But,
they teased a couple moves. They teased the one wing angel. They teased fireman's carry type position. They teased a couple things beforehand. And then I think Mox was the one who gave him the snap suplex onto that, which sacrificing yourself for the pain and anguish of your opponent is kind of his thing, I guess.
Oh, I guess we should touch on like the construction of
the
frame.
Yes.
Yeah. It obviously the main wire supports were not actually.
I pointed that out. I was looking just to see how it was done, and the under wire was all just regular wire as opposed to barbed wire. Like you couldn't tell because there's a couple layers of barbed wire, like 1 or 2 layers of barbed wire on top of it, and then they wrapped it on the outside to make it look much bigger than what it was. But regardless, it's going to suck. You're going to still get poked by it. There is no like pretending it doesn't get poked. But you're not going to be totally gouged up from it.
Yeah.
Snap suplex is a pretty flat landing move as opposed to, I don't know, what would be a very sucky move, like a hip toss where you're rounding into them, moving forward a little bit. I think that'd be more painful.
Yeah. And with it, with the barbed wire having not been taunt as well.
Yes.
That also would take out a lot of the possibility of like major cuts or injuries. I know a lot of people were trying to point out, oh man, like this is just like the barbed wire with Sabu and Terry Funk in ECW when they had barbed wire around the ring. I'm like, no. That barbed wire was taunt, and that is why Sabu like tore his bicep like open, over top of that.
Yeah, and it took him like 15, 20 minutes to get out of that barbed wire and these guys crawled out of it pretty effortlessly. Yep. From there, the big thing was the B trigger through the set sign there, which I thought was a cool visual. I thought that was really good too. They get back to the ring, little double underhook DDT. What's he call it now? It's got multiple names. Yes,
it's the paradigm shift in AEW and the Death Rider in New Japan.
What was the basic version WWE?
The basic version WWE with the Dirty Deeds.
Okay, so just a lifted version of that, right? Yep. Okay, so just double underhook DDT into the glass for a good false finish there. What do we do after that? Let's see. Mox then pulls up the canvas, pulls up the padding, teases the pile driver. Kenny back body drops him out onto the wood planks. As someone who owns a ring, I can tell you, wrestling rings are not as light as you think they are. There's no bounce, not a trampoline. It's not anything like that. You have a metal frame and you have wooden planks going across it. Metal flexes, metal bends a little bit, as does wood. If it was all wood, it'd definitely bend a lot more. But because it's metal, there's a little less bend. Then you have, either 1/2 inch to 1 inch padding on it. Pulling that up and landing on the wood itself, it hurts and it stings. It's hard, as we find out later from the Phoenix Press Stardust into the face first from Kenny. But as you're taking a bump onto the wood, it stings on your back, on your hands, anything you take onto it, it stings and it hurts more than just a regular mat. I think the visual is probably more dangerous looking than what it really is. Pro wrestlers take body slams on the floor all the time, on like a gym floor or anything like that, which is, pretty much the same thing. And people don't think too much of it, but when you pull back the canvas and you pull back the padding, it's completely different. So it's cool. I think it's good. At first, I thought it was kind of exposing of like what the ring's made out of. I feel like not enough fans really know what a ring looks like on the inside. So I felt, and for a while, that was kind of an exposing thing. I know Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano have done it a couple times.
Bully Ray went in and tweeted out like AEW fans, man, I never seen anyone tear apart the ring before. NXT fans, yeah, Gargano and Ciampa did that. Me, yeah, guys, get in line. And he had a clip from like ECW when he did it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's
he's being sarcastic.
Funny. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, as somebody who played basketball for a number of years, I have taken full-on back bumps from, somebody hard fouling me onto like a wooden floor. It is
going up for a rebound and just getting drilled. Yeah,
not fun. So yeah, I can imagine like that Phoenix Splash is coming up here.
Yeah. That's here in 2 seconds. Yeah. So yeah, back body drop on that, and then Kenny hits him with the DDT, lays him out, false finish, and then that's where he goes up top. Goes for the Phoenix Splash, Stardust Press, and just eats the wood. Just eats it.
Now, I feel like, having watched it back a few times, where they have the padding and canvas kind of rolled back, is kind of sitting rolled, so it's up higher.
Yes.
It looks like maybe the plan was to hit that move and be able to hit his forearms near that padding instead of like, he just missed that area.
Which would be way better on his body. What probably happened, this is my take, is whenever you do a move where like a splash of any sort, you're going to land forearms and knees typically. When doing so, you absorb a lot of that with your elbows, of course, because they protrude a little bit. And in the sense of this move, as someone who's done a Phoenix Splash a bunch of times, you get a lot of momentum rotating. And to go and land on your forearms still hurts on a canvas. So I can't imagine landing on wood like that. So what he's thinking is, I'm going to absorb this, but I don't really want to land on my elbows because it'll probably break my elbows because you're going so fast and rotating so fast that would probably at least do some damage.
Yeah.
So I think he was thinking maybe I'd take more of a face bump on it where your arms are in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I mean, his arms kind of, the two different ways of taking a face bump. You have like a dead man kind of way, arms in like that. I think he's thinking kind of just this one more here.
Yeah.
But he took it face first and didn't get his hands and protect himself at all with his arms. So I think that was part of it. And after that, we go to the finish, which is the paradigm shift, and our winner, Mox.
Yeah. And, I thought, for all the negative feedback as far as how dangerous it was, how dangerous the spots were, specifically the glass and the it was sugar glass, I'm assuming, correct? I mean,
just tempered glass,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, even if it's not sugar, I think it was tempered glass because they were still getting cut by it slightly, and you can get cut with sugar glass as well. But tempered glass, like you would have in like a screen door or like a outdoor table, it's not sharp in the same way that normal glass is.
I'm just wondering, like, if maybe that one large piece was sugar glass, because he did break that one piece and shove it into his mouth, and I feel like that would be much safer to do with sugar glass than actual tempered glass.
It could be a mix of both. There could be rubber in there as well, that clear rubber. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do. I'm not on the inside. I know people who are, and I mean, I could probably text them and ask them, but I don't want to be that weird guy.
Yeah.
So, but no, I would guess that it's probably a mix. If I were to really guess, I'd say a mix. The big piece, he broke that later on, and I think it could possibly that was sugar glass.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the most dangerous stuff from the night was probably like that Cody dive and then the missed Phoenix Splash.
Yeah, the
like,
two hard ways.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things I think people just didn't understand. They were like, oh, this looked like it looked really bad, and therefore must have been uber dangerous. And I think that's what makes that match such a piece of art, is that's what you're supposed to do with wrestling.
Absolutely.
You're supposed to have a match where you keep your workers as safe as possible, but make everybody believe that they've seen the most dangerous thing. Like, make them believe that these guys have like put their lives in the line for this match. You really, really sell the action, and that's exactly what they did.
Like, everyone knows, oh, it's fake, it's predetermined, but this is real. Like what they're thinking, that's all really kind of happening. Like, of course, they're not really hurting each other with it, but they're really hurting each other with it. It's like such a weird thing.
And I mean, and it helps that, like, for years, like, WWE has sold the don't try this at home, this is how injuries happen, and sold JR has sold I tell you can say it's fake, but there's no way to fake falling off a 20-foot ladder. They really put that home, that like the more impactful stuff you can't fake. And so when people see some of the stuff, I think it looks fantastic, it looks brutal, and therefore they're like, oh, well, they can't do anything to mitigate that, therefore we think this is brutal.
Yeah, it's not fake, it's pre-planned.
Yep.
It's predetermined, it's discussed ahead of time, it's thought about, it's planned. Everything has a hopefully meticulously thought out process on how to protect you and everyone involved with it.
Yep.
So that's what I'm trying to get to, is anything in wrestling that I want to give or take from anybody, I make sure they're comfortable with. I make sure that we can do it in a safe manner. If I wouldn't give myself an A on it, as a sense of like doing it perfectly 19 out of 20 times, I probably won't do it. And I think if there's anything that is remotely dangerous, I will definitely kind of consider that same thing. Like, do I think that we could do this 19 out of 20 times in a very safe manner? Yes. Okay. Let's do that then. If I don't think so, if I think there's a 50% chance it might go wrong, let's not do that. So go ahead.
I was talking to someone the other day who's a wrestling fan. They stopped me. They're like, oh, I love your shirt, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking wrestling. And they were like, people don't understand that, like, just because it's choreographed, it's still, equally as entertaining as like a movie, and they're kind of comparing it to a movie. And I'm like, it's even beyond that a lot of the time, because where a movie, they bring in a separate stunt guy to do those scenes. Those scenes are practiced. They run through that multiple times before they shoot it. There's a lot of times in a wrestling match where they're like, all right, you two guys are going to wrestle.
Absolutely.
This is your predetermined finish. Everything else, they go out and they run in the ring.
Yes.
And I mean, so with that being the case, it is taking that idea of a choreographed fight scene in a movie. It goes beyond that. There's more art to it. There's more creativity to it. It's not as scripted as some people think it is.
Right. I mean, wrestling isn't like many things, but it's kind of like a number of things.
Yeah.
In the sense of like the improv of it, it's kind of like comedy. You can improvise with comedy and other things. It's kind of like stripping. You have to make an emotional connection with people in order to be successful. If you see a stripper who's just like, and doesn't enjoy her life, nobody wants, boobs in the face from her. But you get the girl who looks like she's enjoying herself, having a good time. That's the girl who I want to come up to me and get a dance from her. So you have to have a lot of different little things in wrestling that you have to be capable of. At this level, though, No one's just showing up and saying you and you. These matches are meticulously thought out and planned. So they probably went over it earlier in that day, if not the day before. Went over it a couple times, made sure everything was safe. Like they wouldn't be able to do that match. They wouldn't show up at the arena at 3:00 and do it at 7:30 or anything like that.
Yep. Yeah. Then I believe word coming out of AEW's locker room with that this is a match that Moxley wanted to have.
Yes.
And Kenny was like, "Hey, I'm willing to have this kind of match with you." And it seemed like they did a good job having like the hardcore style and then Kenny's striking style that he uses, with the knees and the dragon suplexes, snap dragons, and he had got all of his regular stuff he would have in a regular match but was still able to, they were still able to fit in all that hardcore element.
Absolutely.
And I think that it just, I loved it. I loved that match, and it was really disheartening to hear so many people like just
criticizing it. Yeah. I mean, as you know, wrestling, people are passionate about it. It's like a lot of different fandoms, like people who are fans of Star Wars and stuff like that. If they're deep about it, they're passionate about it, they'll criticize it, but still love it. You know what I mean? And wrestling's the same way.
Yep. And then, so then we had Dynamite this week too, so where everything that came out of Full Gear, all the talk was mostly in-ring talk. It would talk about what happened in that hardcore match. It would talk about throwing in the towel in the match. A lot of in-ring stuff. A lot of the best stuff from Dynamite came out of the promos, man. Like,
yeah, man.
Moxley cut a really good promo at the start of the show. Basically,
quick little match.
Yep, quick little match. Beat up Nakazawa. Hey, I did it right. I didn't say Nakamura, which is something I keep doing. So yay. But no, quick match, and then basically called out anyone in the AEW locker room. Said he's gonna go through the entire roster.
And surprisingly, no one walked out.
Yeah.
So they didn't rush that immediately.
Yep. No telegraphing of what's to come immediately. I like that, and we did get an answer to it though.
We did.
Darby did come out after his match, and just he got the win and was like, "Hey, Moxley, I accept," and just kind of went backstage. It was quick. It was to the point. It didn't need to be a long, drawn out 20-minute promo.
As for homegrown stars, I think Darby Allin's somebody who stands out in AEW. I think the AEW fans absolutely adore him. Yep. I think he's super over with them, and I think that's a good person to put with Mox to bring up to another level. And speaking of another level. To reiterate with your thing with Kenny, is I think having Kenny in that sort of match, being able to do those sort of things, puts him on a level of he's not just very one-dimensional. He's never been really a one-dimensional wrestler, but it puts him in that category of being able to do these type of things too that not everybody else does and is willing to do. So I like that Kenny was willing to do that sort of stuff. Yep. All right, so back to Dynamite. We get the little promo from Mox, calling out everybody. Nobody comes out. Later on, Darby Allin has a match, and Darby just basically says, one line? Yeah,
Mox, I accept, or something like
exactly.
that. Yeah. So, I love that.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah, I thought it was much better than a 20-minute long promo to start the show. And they also didn't have the match that week. A lot of times you see WWE, they'll bring out a guy, and he'll say that, and then someone will come out, and they say, I accept, and then they'll talk some more, and then... Or the guy who originally made the challenge will try to back out of it, and they'll have to have a authority figure come out, and it gets all convoluted. And then they have the match later that night, and there's no longer build for it. There's no anticipation. People have to see it that night. In this situation, we get to see it next week. Everybody gets to have to wait a week for it. Everybody can talk about it and converse about who they think is going to win, or where that booking is going moving forward, things of that nature. Which I think is really good for the business. I think it's good for them to have people talking.
Yeah. After that, we had the Dark Order and what was it?
The
Jungle Boy
and Marco Stunt, the Jurassic Express.
Yes.
And I'm still not sold on those guys. The Dark Order. I think they need to tell some kind of story. I need backstory. I need to understand why they have all those minions.
I think you mentioned having a manager like James Mitchell would be an ideal person to put with them. I think that'd be a really good idea, having someone like that. James Mitchell would be the ideal person. But, Player Uno does a little promo where he's sitting on one of his goons' backs and says, Marco, I like your style. I like your heart. We're going to make you one of us. And Marco's kind of considering it. Jungle Boy comes up, pulls the mask away, do a little beat down there, and then Luchasaurus makes a save, beating up all the goons, and
Luchasaurus,
returns,
goes over strong, man. He took out everybody,
Triple roundhouse kick to 3 guys at once.
Yeah, the freaking headbutt to the guy diving at him. Yeah, like Drew's a beast. It is amazing to me WWE let that guy get out of their system.
Yeah, he looks great. He's huge. He's like a prototype. Yeah. You know what I mean? So good for him being where he's at. I mean, I'm glad AEW has him, and he'd be a guy on my roster for sure. Yeah,
I really enjoy, and I mean I like his gimmick too. I think his gimmick's funny. It's
unique,
entertaining. I mean, he can cut some comedy lines and stuff, but still just be a badass.
Yeah, and he's athletic for a huge guy. He can do a standing moonsault. He can kick. He can do all these sort of things that not a lot of big lumbering guys do. Yeah. So I think that adds to his appeal.
Yeah. The next really big thing that happened on Dynamite, we had an amazing promo. Chris Jericho comes out, talks about how he's still Le Champion. And runs down Cody. Says he went through all these people, lists off all the people he's beaten. Says I beat Cody and runs him down. And then we get Cody's entrance cues up, and the fans are kind of slowly getting the rise to their excitement. You kind of hear them start with like mumblings, and then getting a little bit louder, and then get louder, and they're right ready to cheer, and then the lighting comes up, and it's freaking MJF.
Yeah, and he gets all the pyro boy. He got fire and fireworks and sparkles and everything in the book. So I think Cody's his entrance has got a lot of pyro.
Yeah. Cody definitely was like, I'm having all the pyro.
Make me the guy.
In WWE, I want it all now.
Yeah,
but so MJF comes down to like just crowd full of boos. Just I don't think there's anyone there cheering him, unlike recent, he was still a heel, but he was getting pops and stuff because he was aligned with Cody and those guys. So he comes out and they're just booing him. Comes in the ring, tells Jericho, we'll talk in a minute, and then goes ahead and cuts a promo about how Cody's the bad guy, and Cody said he was taking me under his wing, but was actually, putting me under his thumb, and was trying to,
that thumb ain't big enough. I'm the new face of AEW.
Yep. And then him and Jericho talk, and they do a back and forth of
little insults,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole so Chris, I heard you want me to be in the inner circle, and then Chris is like, well, I heard you want to be in the inner circle. Chris, I'm thinking that you want me to be in the inner circle. MJF, I'm thinking you're asking to be in the inner circle. And they kind of went back and forth with that for a bit, which was, comical.
I like the little insult of, when it comes to professional wrestling's Mount Rushmore, you'd be for sure on there in like the 3rd, 4th installment.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good little thing.
And I also liked the, you and the guys in the inner circle jerk. Oh, sorry. Freudian slip. Nothing but respect. And I'm like, oh, that's
yeah, a lot of cute little insults.
Yep. And then they got to the point where they're arguing back and forth, and they're gonna,
who's the biggest jerk?
Who's the biggest jackass in AEW? I know who the biggest jackass.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and then they both do the Cody Rhodes
at the same time,
which to me was the most shocking in that they called him Cody Rhodes. Like,
not just Cody.
Yeah, they've just been calling him Cody pretty much at anything on TV since he left WWE. Like, they weren't calling him Cody Rhodes in TNA. He was.
Does he own the rights to the name?
So there's been argument about that. People have said like WWE won't let him use it, and Cody said that he's never had that discussion with WWE, but nobody wants to have him use it due to like the possibility of it being a problem. So he just doesn't. That's why TNA had him come out as Cody. Now coming to the ring, Cody and Brandy Rhodes. So that way it was, it sounded like the Rhodes, meant both of them.
Right.
But
good way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, but now he's. They called him Cody Rhodes, and I'm like, that's pretty interesting.
Typically, when they have your name, they trademark it, or register it. It depends how he filed his taxes and whether he owns it or they owned it. So it'd be one of those things he'd have to find out.
Maybe he pulled a Warrior and actually changed his last name.
It's a smart thing to do. I mean, Ryback did it, So
yeah, but yeah. So anyway, that was funny, and so they do that, and then we get the fans pop, and hey, out comes Cody, and I love that they had office workers there, people who work in the office with him, who we've seen on like Being the Elite and on the AEW YouTube channel, who work with him in an office capacity, out there telling him, no, you can't go out there.
Well, it's GQ. What's his name? GQ something.
Yeah.
GQ. Gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
But he's a worker. He's a
Yep.
professional wrestler, and he's also one of the office guys. He was on the Undeniable to Undesirable to Undeniable.
to Undeniable. Yeah.
He was on there. So I knew he looked familiar. He worked in Ring of Honor for a little while.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm like I like that they were like, you're not cleared, you're not
Can't
cleared.
do it, buddy.
You don't do it, and then him just ignore
Rush
them and run
past
down.
him,
Yeah. Though we did see a botched
Power slam.
power slam. Yeah.
Comes in, kicks, ducks Jericho's line. Couple strikes on MJF. Jericho is supposed to hit the ropes, come back, take the power slam. Jericho didn't have enough speed for it, whatever. And there's a little botch there. He goes after MJF again. You can see Jericho sitting there saying, one more, do it again. Gets up, runs right at him. There's power slam. So those little things that, like, it's not that big of a deal. He could have played it up like he was hurt, and that's why it didn't work.
Do you think, since he has a legitimate separated rib, that might have played anything into him botching it the first time?
Perhaps. I mean, he wasn't bringing it. Like, a lot of times we do a power slam, you lean back, you arch, and you use your body. I don't feel like he had the arch with it, which is part of the reason why maybe it didn't go as planned, or maybe Jericho just wasn't there. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that had something to do with it.
Yeah, that's what I immediately thought, and I'm like, like the report came out that like he doesn't have a concussion, but he had like a busted open, head, and he's got like there was the technical term for it, and I had to Google what this was, but it said it was like a separated rib. And I'm like, all right, well, having had a dislocated rib myself once, yeah, I could see that being a problem pulling off of that move. So, but yeah, so he comes in and he's getting the best of Jericho and MJF until
Wardlow.
The debut of Wardlow, which finally, God, I mean, it feels like forever since they said he was going to come in.
Yeah.
Like that was Labor Day weekend, and so yeah, it's been a minute. But,
came out in his 3-piece suit, matching Burberry tie. Really like that. Looked like a fucking. Gee, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to podcast or not.
Fine.
All right. Comes out looking great, looking huge, even in his suit, and good looking guy. Looks like a professional wrestler. Still gets hung out a few too many times for my liking, but got a lot of intensity. Got his stuff in. Little fireman's carry drop over the front deal, and that was his thing. And we got his debut.
Yeah. And then MJF told him, take off your tie, and he takes off his tie, and they string up Cody and do like a hanging angle there on the ring apron.
At first, they did the Brian Justin Roberts little deal.
Yep.
Choked him there for a second, and then they strangled him with the tie.
Yeah. Yeah, I made that joke. If WWE, they would have fired this guy.
Right.
Yeah. You guys coming in off the independent scene and then strangling people with ties, man. That's how you get fired.
I guess.
Poor Daniel Bryan. That was the dumbest thing ever.
He went back, 3 months later.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It was just, so dumb. But yeah, no. So that was cool. It was nice to see Wardlow. I think him and MJF are a good pairing. Hoping they keep them out of the inner circle. I think them just being their own thing would be fantastic. I think that he could run through most of that mid-card division with Wardlow beside him. I'm not sure who they pair him up against. Maybe him and Hangman have some stuff. Maybe him and maybe eventually him and Moxley. But like,
hopefully they don't hot shot him and Cody right away. I mean, I'm sure they will because I mean they broke him away, so that's probably what they're gonna do first. Yep. But there's a lot he could do ahead of time. Before that, he could say, Cody, you can't beat me until you beat this guy and this guy and this guy, or whatever.
Yeah. Or I mean, I'm hoping they wait on that. Them actually having a match until that next pay-per-view. I mean, they're doing 4 pay-per-views a year. I think Cody and MJF at the blow off at a pay-per-view, not something to do on TV. I'm only a little bit concerned with how many faces they have in the mid card for MJF to be able to get wins over. Like your mid card's heavy heels.
Right.
You got MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears. You got some. I mean, you could probably get a win over like someone in SCU, and then have those guys like have a tag team match or something afterwards if they lose. But yeah, it's just you got a pretty heavily heel mid card.
Heel heavy mid card for sure.
I mean, Sammy Guevara heel.
What about the bald dude, the Young Bucks boy?
Oh yeah, he could definitely. But he already went over Brandon Cutler.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, that was I think that was the first Dynamite.
All right. Well.
So I mean, but we'll see. I mean, they're such a young company. I mean, you could see
Bring in some outside talent.
Breakout is from heel to face at any point, really. I mean, they haven't too heavily established anyone in like major heel storylines other than the Inner Circle. So,
right.
I mean, we'll have to see what happens. But
speaking of Inner Circle, I think we did miss a tag match in there, perhaps with Private Party.
We have the Inner Circle had a tag match in the main event against SCU.
I feel like there was something we missed in there. Where...
well, the Bucks had a fight with
That's what it was.
Santana and Ortiz, and backstage brawl type thing. They fought out to the ramp, and they injured Matt, and we're about to injure Nick's leg when Private Party comes out, breaks it up.
That's what it was.
Yep. And then so we're gonna get Private Party and the guys from Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz, next week. So.
Which you mentioned they had the pre-planned screen there, which is.
Yep. They gotta not do that. Like they came out and they make that save, and then immediately, like, I don't even know if there was a commercial break. Like it was super quick. Like there was the animated screen for the match, and I'm like, guys, I know you're getting close to your main event, but maybe have that be the last image, like after the main event. Be like, all right, and we just found out that our production truck's been on this, and it's official, and then bring up the graphics so you can at least say that they took some time to work on it. Because otherwise it seems really pre-planned.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely.
Yeah, but then we got the main event, which Dynamite's main event was fantastic.
It's good.
World Tag Team title match. The SCU, Scorpio Sky and Frank Kazarian versus Inner Circle's Sammy Guevara and Le Champion.
And Jake Hager with his T-shirt.
Yeah.
Wear an Inner Circle.
They gotta
wear an Inner Circle T-shirt at least.
T-shirt or they need to get him his own T-shirt, or have him wear a Jericho T-shirt,
or just dress up.
Yeah,
wear
a suit. Like, yeah, there's a lot of different things. But if you're gonna wear a T-shirt, make it be a branded thing. No reason not to market your store.
Right.
But so that was a pretty good match. I think a lot of people expected either Jericho to become a double champion, or if they lost, for Sammy Guevara to take that pin in that match.
Yeah, which neither one of those things happened.
Yeah. Which is good. We got to see Jake Hager make some interference, and then get in a fight with Christopher Daniels, which was nice to see CD involved there, and kind of like cutting off that edge that the Inner Circle had with the extra guy. And man, we got to see Scorpio Sky get over, which was fantastic.
He's really good, man. He's really, really good.
Picks up a pinfall over the AEW World Champ, and to retain the belts with a roll up.
Yeah, first time we've seen Jericho been pinned at all, I think.
Yeah, for his first loss of any kind in AEW.
I think no, he lost to Kenny the first time, didn't he?
Not in AEW.
No, in New Japan.
Yeah, I think
so. Since WWE, that's probably WWE outside of Kenny. I think that's probably his only other loss. I would guess.
He held the didn't he hold the IC championship and then lose it to like somebody?
Maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like I know he feuded with Naito over the IC championship, and he doesn't have it anymore, which means he had to lose it to somebody. But I'm a little blurry on. Yeah. He's probably only got like 2 losses since he left WWE. It's probably
2 or 3.
Yeah,
including this one.
Yep. So,
that's impressive, man.
Yeah, and hopefully I'd like to see Scorpio Sky get a title shot on TV.
I like to see him just kind of break away and do his own thing a little bit.
I mean, I don't expect him to beat Jericho for the belt, but I think having that opportunity in a main event on like an episode of Dynamite would be good for Scorpio. I think he's a guy who could be one of the top singles guys.
I think he's a better Kofi Kingston than Kofi Kingston.
Yeah,
I think he's more athletic. I think he's got a better move set. I think he looks better.
Bigger.
Yeah, he's in great shape. Yep. I remember the 140-pound Scorpio Sky from 2005 that I used to know, But he looks tremendous now. And
that pre or post WSX?
Pre.
Okay.
And post. I mean, he was still pretty small then. But no, he looks great, man. He looks like a pro wrestler.
Yeah, it's good to see him get that opportunity. I was really stoked, and getting to hang out with him and the other guys from SCU and Cody at the Cigar Social at Starcast 3. Those guys are all super cool guys. They're all nice. They're all funny. They're real personable. And to see them be successful makes me happy.
You gave me one of those American Rebel cigars, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like those.
Damn good. I love those American Rebel cigars. Aaron would appreciate if you guys went to go buy a bunch of those American Rebel cigars online.
Where would you buy that at?
AmericanRebel.com, I think.
Oh, well, hopefully that's right.
AmericanRebelCigars.com.
Probably cigars.
Yeah.
But yeah.
With their Twitter's, I think, American Rebel. So it's one of those two. But yeah, I'm sure if you just Google American Rebel cigars, you'll find it.
In other news, anything else you want to cover there? I know there were some injuries at NXT.
Yeah, NXT going into a crossover storyline for Survivor Series. They got some guys injured.
Yeah, I think 2 of them were supposed to be in the elimination, or not elimination, but the War Games.
Yeah.
Aaliyah takes a kick to the face and fractures her orbital bone. And then you have Mia Yim, who I believe also fractured her orbital bone and broke some ribs.
Yep. And Velveteen Dream's out injured, and Adam Cole has 2 injuries on his arm. I don't know if it's the same arm or not. He's got like a stress fracture and then like a fractured wrist or something. Ugh. Yeah. So I'm like, geez, guys, like that's not good going into.
It's bad timing for him.
Yeah.
It's super bad timing for him as they're pushing him to the moon right now with all the stuff on TV, on Raw and on SmackDown. It's bad timing for those injuries. However, like, I think he'll be all right in the long run. But yeah, I think with the level of wrestling, like the progression of athleticism and the evolution of the modern athlete, and it comes across in pro wrestling of just like how much better professional wrestling is now than ever before. The quality of talent runs deep everywhere. Everyone works hard. Everyone wants to be successful. Everyone's competitive. It's nice to see people working hard. I remember like at Ring of Honor where like a lot of us had like different injuries we were working through and concussions, and you're thinking like, either am I dumb for this or am I proud of like seeing this kind of thing? It's a weird thing in wrestling. Like, you'll be injured and you'll have other people injured and you'll still be working through it. And it's either you're proud and kind of like, yeah, that's us, we're doing it. And on the other end, it's like, how stupid of us to be doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, injured. So in the long run, hopefully, hopefully everyone's okay. Hopefully everyone heals up and can get back to working in no time. But yeah.
How do you feel about the main roster guys coming down and working in NXT?
It's great. Makes it another brand. I think that's a good idea. Not just Raw and SmackDown. NXT is another brand now, and not just the minor leagues. And I think that's the idea. I'm hoping.
Well, I think there's concern about. I know out of NXT's locker room there was talk that a lot of the developmental talent, a lot of the talent who came in from like Ring of Honor and other places who are experienced where they're not really developmental, aren't getting that TV time that they were promised when they came in, and now WWE is bringing they brought Finn Balor down. Now they had the
Bailey.
OC come down and wrestle. They have Fandango and Tyler Breeze down there. I think it's great for the guys who were on the main roster who weren't getting opportunities to get opportunities in NXT. But at the same time, I think they have so many people sitting in developmental who are ready to get TV time and get opportunity.
They have so many guys in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much talent that is signed right now that there isn't enough TV time, even with the 3 shows. Oh, I just have a cramp in my back. That they don't have enough room for everybody to begin with. So having them come on the NXT show when they were just on Raw, like put them on TV one place a week, whether it's on Raw or SmackDown or NXT, but having them, work each one of those shows.
Yeah. And with a lot of people have been asking for releases too. Sin Cara and ACH just said he quit.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where that goes. But I guess word with the Sin Cara thing is that WWE is saying we are only going to release people if we don't think that they will make any, if they won't go to AEW, or if they do go to AEW, they won't make any kind of impact whatever upon arrival. So I'm like, there are very few that's going to be the case. And it feels like it would almost be a slap in the face then to anybody they do end up releasing.
Sure, yeah.
Is like, we're going to release you, but it's only because you're not good.
Yeah, you want to release? Sure.
Yeah, yep. So
peace.
Yeah, no, it's a situation where they have a tremendous amount of talent and just not enough. Even though they have a ton of TV time, they don't have enough for the amount of talent that they have.
Even with main event and all the other side things they have, it's just like there isn't enough.
They just announced another UK promotions closing. It's like the third or fourth one this year.
Progress.
I'm not sure what the current one is. It's their IPW.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they've closed a couple times, I believe.
Yep. But they're closing their doors now. I mean, What Culture Pro Wrestling, which became Defiant, they went out. And that's all due to WWE starting
Buying everybody.
NXT UK and buying up all the talent. So,
fortunately, WXW in Germany is still doing pretty well. Actually, you've been using some of the NXT UK wrestlers there, which is kind of neat. I really like WXW, Felix Kohlenberg and the guys there.
That's cool. Yeah. How long WXW? How long had that been around as a promotion?
Gosh, 2000 maybe. Okay. Maybe, yeah, I'd say 2000, 2002.
Very cool. Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, hearing Ring of Honor struggling right now is a sad thing to hear as well. I mean,
oh man,
I really, really love Ring of Honor. They introduced me to so many of this, everybody who's big now. I was introduced to because they were in Ring of Honor.
I mean, when the door from ECW closed and there was no longer WCW, it was just WWE. There was no other bigger promotion at the time. So Ring of Honor came from the ashes of that, of ECW, with Gabe Sapolsky and Rob Feinstein and Kerry Silkin. And it turned into a much bigger thing than I think was originally planned. I mean, maybe they had bigger plans than what it really is now, but the fact that they have Sinclair Broadcasting owning it and everything, I think that's kind of a neat thing. I just feel like Ring of Honor has lost so many big people and is trying to supplement that with international stars that really just don't have the same appeal as homegrown talent.
Well, I mean, so WWE rated them and they lost like a ton of talent, and instead of building new talent, they entered that exchange with New Japan, which got them access to Kenny Omega, got them access to Marty Scurll. The Young Bucks were doing both.
They were surviving for a while.
Yeah, it really helped because those guys were super over. But once they left and started AEW, they didn't have. I mean, they didn't have as many U.S. stars who could regularly do the shows. So you're having to bring over more guys from Japan who are Japanese stars who are less often. They're going to be there, so you can't build long-term storylines around those guys.
Right.
And then those guys stopped wanting to come because the attendance numbers started dropping. And Juice Robinson's apparently went out and said that he felt it was
detrimental
to his character. So
detrimental to his career.
Yeah. I mean, he looked like he was working on unimportant programming instead of looking like a big star.
Right.
And, I mean, so I don't know how you fix that problem without being able to bring in somebody to draw, a big draw.
There's got to be something unique they need to do. I mean, you got to surprise the wrestling world with something unique. I don't know what.
NWA did it. I mean, NWA is running Nick Aldis and what's his name? They had Colt Cabana working there for a while. I don't know if he's still there. I know he's doing New Japan now too. So
good.
Yeah, but and then oh God, what's the other guy's name? He had the dummy gimmick over in TNA. Oh geez, I am completely blanking on his name.
Damien Sandow's dude.
Damien Sandow's there too,
Aaron Stevens,
God, I wish I could remember. Anyway, yeah, they brought in guys who have been, not the top guys in the company elsewhere, and they're putting on really good shows, and people seem to really enjoy it because of the
nostalgia of it.
The way they do their promos, the studio atmosphere. I think a lot of people enjoy that, and it's something unique. And I think maybe Ring of Honor needs to figure out what they can do that is equally unique, because
or just different, just something that's got to get them talking about Ring of Honor again, because I feel like they're missing out on this rabid fan base that's out there.
Yep.
I know MLW's doing some stuff. I know that they've got some things going on. I know that Impact acquired Joey Ryan, which is a good acquisition there. Joey's doing dick plexes to Ken Shamrock, which was a nice return to Impact. So I think there's a lot of good things going on in the wrestling world. There's a lot of places for guys to work. So hopefully, somebody breaks out and helps a place like Ring of Honor or a place like MLW get to another level, or bring Ring of Honor back to their previous level.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I think the more places to work, the more places to get on TV to get fans interest is great for everybody. And I think Ring of Honor just in a situation they need to have that must see talent to draw some more people in. They got some really good workers still. I mean, as much as I hate Matt Taven, he's not a bad worker. He's good. He pisses me off as a heel, and that he's supposed to do. So, they got guys there that can go.
But they need that lovable CM Punk babyface, or that lovable Samoa Joe hardcore butt kicker.
Yep. They need somebody that is your must watch,
Right.
So who knows? I guess we'll have to see if they're able to find something else. But other than that, we had a CM Punk show up for WWE backstage, and we'll have to see where that goes coming forward. It's all kind of speculation of whether or not he's going to wrestle, or whether or not he's going to be allowed to say what he actually thinks of the product, or if he's going to be held to a script and told hey, you have to say this, you have to be positive. We'll have to see how that goes. I think if he's allowed to say what he wants, that's going to make that show better and more people are going to want to watch it. But I don't foresee WWE being too happy with him crapping on their product.
I don't think it's beneficial for the business anyway. I think that him crapping on their product isn't good for anybody. Not good for them, not good for Fox. I think the idea in the long run is Vince will maybe retire in a couple of years and not actually give it away to Stephanie and Hunter. I think he'll probably end up selling to Fox for an obscene amount of money. I think it's a good possibility.
Yeah, the whole Fox situation is weird. We've seen them. They've seen Fox get SmackDown. There was the rumor that Fox was going to get NXT. They put NXT on USA instead, which a lot of rumor going around that Fox wasn't too happy about that. And then this backstage show, it sounds like Fox is the one who signed CM Punk because WB, brought in other people, and they're like, we want somebody from outside of your company to do this, which doesn't necessarily. I mean, if you're working in a partnership with a promotion, you would think maybe there'd be some trust level there of okay, you guys can pick their commentator team or give us your recommendations, and we'll pick out some of your recommendations. But going outside to somebody who has historically been disgruntled with the company seems like an odd choice.
Yeah.
And then word has it now that Fox is upset with this whole Roman Reigns storyline with the dog mascot they brought out and the barking sounds for his theme music. Yeah, Baron Corbin, SmackDown. Baron Corbin is going to feud with Roman. They started this whole feud thing. And
dog mascot?
Yeah, because Roman's the big dog.
I know, but an actual mascot.
So yeah, like a
guy
mascot in a suit. And then they played Roman's music, the dun dun dun, that, but they replaced it with Chihuahua yips.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people were like, this is shit. And apparently Fox feels similar.
All right.
And the rumor going around, there's nothing really confirming this yet, but the rumor is that this is all building to a dog collar match between Baron Corbin, the lone wolf, and the big dog Roman Reigns at whatever the After Survivor Series.
It'd be way cooler as a kennel match, though.
Yeah, people were like, we want to see Kennel from Hell match. Yeah, I'm like, oh
dog
Jesus. Yeah. So, yeah, that's our WWE stuff. Nothing too spectacular. I feel like they had a really good SmackDown when most of the roster was stuck in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, sometimes they improvise. You have to bring people in and change things on the fly. It's really good.
Feels like they weren't able to follow that up with anything tangible. I feel like Raw and SmackDown since then have both been letdowns.
Lost that fire.
Yep, and the ratings have showed the same thing. So, I don't know. I think getting away from some of the goofy comedy stuff would probably be good for them. And but we'll have to see what happens.
That NXT roster is hungry and they want to be successful, and then you get people who are on the main roster for years who get content and comfortable where they're at, and I think that's the difference between those shows is, content and wrestling the regular match or going out there and try to steal the show. And it's the guys who want to steal the show are usually the ones who have the standout matches and entertain the fans more, which is probably why those matches were so good.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have anything else.
Let's see. I got a IPW show in Kalamazoo at the Y Bar on November 30th. Other than that, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And check out IPW in Kalamazoo, man. We'll be down there, making sure to cover the show and such, and should be a lot of fun. The last couple shows I managed to come out to, I really enjoyed it. You got some really talented workers that you got to bring in, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you.
All right, so yeah, everybody, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like, the subscribe, and super kick the bell icon. All that stuff helps us tremendously. Subscription numbers are a big deal for us.
Be sure you slap your leg, though, when you do click on that. Or
Yes.
Super kick that.
Yeah. And to my left over here is a video from our pre-show for AEW Full Gear. You can check that out. Sure to, if you're subscribed, you got the bell super kicked, you'll get updated on all our future content and stuff. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And man, thanks for coming out, man.
Cool. Pleasure.
Take care.